Cody.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Let all your fears be washed away.
Yes. Okay, so as most of you know, my name's Cody. I am the founder of the Avery Projects, the director of Every Life Counts, Street Evangelism Ministry, and more than absolutely anything else, I am a child of God. I stand very solid on His word. I trust the Father. I trust what He's doing, and I just love Jesus with my whole heart. And I hope that is very transparent today, because if you guys listen to me talking at the end of this, you feel like it was about me, then I did a horrible job. Because it's not about me or what I did or where I was. It's about who He is and what He did for me, for you. All those thoughts that He must have had on that cross, and He remembered you, and He remembered you, and He remembered me, and He remembered every single person in this room. And so, I want to invite the Holy Spirit in here. That we start with prayer, please. Lord God, oh Father, just thank you. You keep putting me up in front of people, so I must be doing something right. And God, I just pray that your words fill this room today. God, I thank you. I praise you. We praise you for your grace that we don't deserve, but because of who you are, we are blessed with you, God. And we just receive it today, God. I just pray for the open hearts of everybody in this room. Every single person in this room is meant to be here right now. Every single person is ordained to be here. And each one of them is going to hear a message today, an objective words that are coming out of my mouth, but each person is going to hear a subjective message tailored to their heart from you because of who you are. And Lord, we just praise you and we thank you for that, God. And we just, I just ask, a lot of what I'm going to be sharing is going to be a little outside of what some of the Winklers used to. But I just pray for the open hearts and just your love just showering all over this whole entire room. Pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Yeah, so I'm just going to start right at the beginning. So I grew up, I was born in Calgary, Alberta. I grew up in a very, very broken home. I had lots of men coming in and out of my mom's life. I got lots of step siblings, half siblings. But I'm the oldest, and so, I was there from the beginning. And every time, as a child, you love someone so easily. And every time someone would leave, it's hard not to take it personally. And it's hard, and the only way I could really bond with my mom is by hating them, because she'd be so angry. And so just at a very young age, I learned that it's okay to hate the people you love. My mom started abusing me when I was about 4. I remember she threw a glass mug at me and almost cut my finger off. I remember she put me down the stairs. I remember she hit me a lot, made me eat bars of soap. I didn't understand. I just learned that it's okay to hurt the people you love. I felt a lot of rejection as a kid, and it was, I started, the effects of that just really started coming out in my behavior. So at around 7 years old, the doctors decided it'd be a good idea to put me on quite a bit of medications. And so, up to that point, I was still making friends pretty good. But once they put me on these medications, I'd just be stunned at school all day. I couldn't make friends. I couldn't talk really. And my friends would even include it in their dialogue that if I acted the same way after school or the same way at school as I did after school, I'd have way more friends. But I couldn't be myself because of all the heavy medications they had me on. And I started getting bullied lots. And so when I started just getting a lot of rejection at school, getting bullied and getting rejected at home and getting abused. And I didn't believe in God when I was young, but I prayed every single day that it would disappear. I just absolutely hated myself at 9 years old. Uh, and I started to try and just get control back in my life. And some of the only ways I knew how, I started killing lots of animals. I was just so angry, and it just came out in very sick and twisted ways. There's just a big void inside my gut, just something just always felt like it was missing. And I remember I got my first joint from my mom, and I was 12 years old, and I remember smoking it on the way to school, and I had kind of an idea of what, how old are you at 12 years old, like grade 6, eh? Yeah. So I had an idea, like most of my friends had like older brothers and stuff, and so they were like, so they all knew what weed was, right? So I was gonna smoke this whole joint to myself, I was gonna get to school, and then I was, everyone's gonna know I was high, and I was gonna be awesome, and I was gonna be the catalyst into the cool crowd, right? Yeah. And you know what? I smoked this joint, and I got way more than I bargained for. I didn't care what anybody thought of me. It was the first time in my life that I was okay to be in my own skin, and all of my pain, all that melon in my gut, that emptiness just got filled for a little bit, and all of a sudden I just found this, like I said, I got way more than I bargained for. I found a solution that I didn't know existed that was so easy to get, and I decided I would do absolutely anything for it. I started getting lots of trouble, skipping school and doing, petty crime, breaking and entering, stealing cars, that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's petty crime. For me, it was petty. And I ended up going to prison at 15. And I remember coming into jail. Like I was such a naive and gullible kid. I didn't even know I was in prison. I just thought I was at like some summer camp for bad kids. It was like a walk down facility. Like it was a jail. And I remember guards walking me into my room, and I was like, "Hey, where's the swimming pool?" Swimming pool? You know where you are. And I remember I got my room, and that airlock snapped shut. Like I'm in prison. And turns out it was Calgary Gun Center. And that was the beginning of my jail career. And I remember being in prison, and the guys that ran the jail were the gang members. And I remember it was, I remember being scared of them at first. I was a kid from the country. I was living in Turner Valley from when I was 9. So, and I just been rejected my entire life. So I was terrified of these guys. But the craziest thing happened is these guys treated me good. They liked me, it seemed like. And when I wasn't on my medications, and I fit in with these guys. It was very perverse love, but it was the first feeling of family I'd ever had in my entire life. And so I decided that I would do anything to be with these guys. And so what came along with that is a lot of, everything that comes along with gang life followed me getting out of prison. So when I got out of jail, I started getting involved in narcotic trafficking was the first thing. And then growing, and then moving up within the ranks of the gang, that led to more serious crimes like home invasions, robberies, kidnappings, shootings. Just the guys I hung out with, we were entrenched in a very crazy turf war in South Calgary with a rival gang in the early 2000s, and between, like most of my friends I grew up with are dead. It was a crazy existence, just wearing a bulletproof vest everywhere you went, but I thrived in it. I loved being around these guys. I loved staying high. I loved, all this stuff that came along with it. But it was just lie after lie after lie. Just all these things that I kept filling that emptiness with were always temporary. And, I'd always wake up the next day just having that same pit in my gut that I'd had since I was a kid. And especially drugs just keep adding to it and adding it and adding it, and you got to keep using more and more and more to bury it. And I was a heavy cocaine addict. And I remember everything caught up to me on June 6, 2006. which is oddly enough 666. It's the day I broke the final commandment, and my best friend and I killed a rival gang member that I had a problem with, and I remember when that happened, something really happened deep inside me that just kind of went out the window for good, is the way it felt. You know, like once you cross that line, it's what more is there to do, really? And I just hated myself completely. A year and a half after that happened, I got charged with first-degree murder in the death. And I remember getting to prison and sitting in jail. And I was 22 years old. I was in maximum security. I remember walking onto the unit, just the word, all the guys are reading about in the newspapers are all sitting right there, you know, and it was just, I remember walking in, and these guys, again, they knew who I was, and they treated me good, and you know, and I just decided to own what I was going through, and you know, I was looking at 25 years, so, you know, but I was so angry at my family, I was so angry at my friends, I was so angry at myself. I was just, you know, I was just so filled with hate. And I started, any time I went into a cell with somebody, it was always coupled with a massive statement, and that's that I wanted to move up within the ranks of my gang. And yeah, it was brutal. I remember about 6 months in, I ended up with a supermax security classification from all the trouble I was getting in. I was the top member, the highest ranking member in the prison. I remember getting belly shackles, solitary confinement, special escorts to court. I remember sitting in the cell, it was 23 and a half hour lockdown, and thinking that I'd arrived, you know, and all of a sudden just kind of having the gravity of what I was fighting for really sink in. You know, like I was sitting there by myself, but kept away from everybody, you know, that's just trusted with absolutely nothing, and just locked away like an animal. And you know, and I was sitting there thinking that I'd arrived, but I was just so filled with shame and pain and guilt and hurt, and I just thought that was going to be the rest of my life. Thankfully, it was not. I ended up beating the murder charge and getting convicted with manslaughter with a firearm. And then so they sent me to the Southern Alberta Psychiatry Center to kind of get an idea of what they should send me to, how long they should give me. And I got kicked out. It's a little too much freedom for me. It took like 2 days. So they made it so easy to smuggle drugs into that place. They dangled a carrot in front of my face. And anyways, I got kicked out. I was like, whatever, not a big deal. You know, it's just my life. And I remember getting to court, and my lawyer said I got diagnosed a sociopath. I was like, what? Oh wait, he used another word for it first. He said antisocial personality disorder. I was like, yeah, it's because I didn't want to talk to anybody. That's not what that is. And then, and I remember when he told me that it was a sociopath, I remember thinking, like, you know, it was, like, I wanted to kind of know more. I wondered if maybe that was the problem. I can tell you now that that is not the case. I hated myself so completely that my actions reflected that of someone that doesn't feel, you know, and it's crazy, just that kind of that irony that, you know, that just an extreme emotion like that can reflect no emotion at all, right? And yeah, but at the time it seemed like, all right, well, I guess I'm a sociopath. And I remember at that time, I had a friend. I go a little side story here. I had a friend. His name was David, and he was the craziest guy that I've ever met in my entire life. He was my best friend, and this guy on the streets probably killed about 6 people, He's the type of guy that if someone owed him money, he'd burn down the entire apartment building just to get the one person. Like, he was a very psychotic guy. And he was the only other Superman in me. So, but I remember him coming out, little quarter steps in his belly shackles, and he's like, "Hey, you read this book?" And he's got the Bible in his hand. and I didn't really think much of it, but I remember him talking about this book and him starting to change. He started it was strange because he was, probably the most evil person I've ever met in my life. And I watched this guy start to transform before my eyes. By the time we got to the penitentiary, I remember it was about 6 months after that I ended up in Edmonton, Max. And I remember walking in there, and David was there. And man, this guy, he went from being the most psychotic person in the world to going around telling everybody he's got good news. Like, sell the sell. And he quit watching rated R movies. He quit listening to rap music. He'd read his Bible for 6 hours a day. Like, it was like God just grabbed a hold of this guy's heart and just totally transformed this guy. And I couldn't. And then and at that time, that was my introduction a little bit to God. And I remember I didn't believe in it. I just thought maybe he was a little crazy. And, takes everything a little bit too far. And but I couldn't deny the transformation that took place in my friend. Like, this guy was a diagnosed psychopath. Yeah, that could not be helped at all. And this guy he completely transformed before my eyes. I remember getting to Edmonton Max, and in Edmonton Max was, it was a very, very violent prison. To give you an idea what it's like, it's the only prison in the entire country that you're required to put a deposit down on a body bag as soon as you step through the gates. So it's just kind of just daunting as you walk in. You're like, taking my money for what? Yeah, and so it's but the high murder rate, high suicide rate, all gangs, and I remember being in there and just really seeing the dead end that my life was in. There's I think about 3 people that got murdered on my unit in a year, and I remember over nothing. Like, one guy got stabbed 56 times over a pair of jeans that he left in the wash when someone put their whites in and ruined their whites. Everybody was just psychotic there. And I remember seeing the dead end that my life was in. And the craziest thing, God kind of seen me hurting, I guess. And I met this girl. I knew her from before. And she avoided me at that time. But for some reason, she reached out to me on Facebook, on Messenger. And I remember she came and visited me. And she had this crazy notion that she wanted me to give up my bulletproof vest and my friends and all that stuff for a white picket fence and a kid. And it couldn't have come at a more perfect time, because I was really starting to see have a lot of clarity with how dead end my lifestyle was. Finally. and I remember, and so I ended up leaving the gang, and I remember having, it was a scary leap of faith when I left the gang, and I remember thinking that, because my identity was in the gang, right? Yeah. And so I had a hard time, trying to figure out who I am, what am I supposed to do, and I did, and I was sober for a couple of years when I was younger, and I went to AA, and I remember sitting there thinking maybe, and David was loved God and stuff. I'm like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in the higher power, I guess. Essentially meant that I didn't believe. and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try and get an AA meeting in here. And I remember going to the warden, and I approached the warden, and I said, I want to start an AA meeting. And he said, no. And first of all, it's because it was me asking. It wasn't just an ex-gang leader. And never been nice to the board, ever. Yeah, so I didn't really believe the change. And the thing was, Edmonton Max doesn't have programming. So like Stony Mountain's got programming and stuff, but Edmonton Max, because all the units just absolutely want to kill each other, they can't let people off the units. So so what they have to do, so they don't have programming there. So for them to have a program, they would have to have guards at all the gun ports, because anytime you get moved around Edmonton Max, you have to have guns trained on you. And so they couldn't finance to facilitate the move financially. And so he said no. And then I remember going back to my cell and just like, what am I supposed to do here? And I got this crazy idea. And I thought about David going around telling everyone he's got good news. And I went, I took my big book and I went around to the cells. And I talked to everybody. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start an A meeting in the rec yard during our gym time. And we only get 2 gym times a week. So that's asking a lot, but I said every Sunday I'm going to hold an A meeting under the gun towers. And I said, so we're just going to run it like a normal AA meeting and, see what happens. And, and I remember stepping out in faith like that, and stepping out, and I remember sitting down in the yard and thinking, it had been quite a while at that point that, that I was a leader and people followed me. And I remember thinking, like, I wonder if they'll follow me here, in the darkest place in the world, and try and, stir up some hope. And I remember the inmates started coming out, and at first they just started walking the beaten path around the rec yard. And then all of a sudden 1 guy started coming towards me. And then 2 guys, and then 3 guys, and then the guys off the beaten path started coming in. By the end of it, there was 15 guys sitting in a circle. And I remember sitting down, and like these guys were, they're the most deepest, honest sharing I've ever heard in my life came from men that will never see their kids again. They will never breathe free air again. You essentially never live again, is what you feel like. And I remember these guys sharing, and nothing that we were doing was going to go on files or anything like that. We were doing this to be able to look ourselves in the mirror, and we wanted something better. And I remember at the end of it, getting up, and I remember stretching out my hands, stepping up in faith, the 250-pound tattooed face guy next to my left and right, and I remember we locked up. And every single one of us held hands and said the serenity prayer to this guy under the gun towers. And it was one of the most powerful moments of my entire life. And I remember at that time, God gave me a small sample of what we can be capable of, when we're stepping out in faith. And I remember, and so from that time on, I was sober, and I ended up getting out of prison 7 years later. And I remember getting out of jail, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I'd been in prison for a long time, and so everything was changed. It was weird. I remember standing in Tim Hortons, and everybody was like 2 minutes after I got out, and everybody was like shoulder to shoulder. And I was like the only guy wearing a tracksuit and a life beat. and I remember just being, and like I ended up getting in the front line really quick, and they had one of those menus that like changed. So they're like, I get to the front, and they're like, what do you want? I'm like, stay safe, right? BLT, right? Yeah, I'll just get a BLT. And then they're like, bacon, ham, or sausage? What? Yes? Said, man, this world's scary. What's going on here? And then every time like I would eat, I'm used to eating in like the Maxes where they give all your food trays, and then the guy goes around, gives them all out, and then comes around, picks them all up, and so they got like 2 minutes to eat. So like every time I sat down to eat with my family, I was It took a while to break that habit. It was and just funny things. I remember being in the gym. This is a good one. I remember being in the gym with my Discman, my book of CDs. I was the only guy with a Discman. These iPods. I've seen these things. They both carried around. I got a big book of CDs. I was so proud of that book of CDs. I was like, how many songs go on those things? Like 10,000. What? Yeah. So my book of CDs wasn't that cool anymore, but in the pen, it was awesome. And so anyways, the world had changed, yes. And I remember getting a job as a personal trainer, and not a personal trainer, selling gym memberships at the World Health Club. And I remember getting there, and I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna sell gym memberships and working in the gym. I love fitness and 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 I remember getting, and they were excited to have me and stuff. And I remember getting there the next day, showing up for work, and they're like, oh, the person who's training you is not here. You gotta go home. Can you come back later? I'm like, yeah. And so I go home, and then I come back the next day, and they send me home again. And then they're like, this time they're like, hey, they're gonna be back in like a week, so just chill out and come back then. And I remember I come in a week later, and I remember I got asked into go into his office, and I go in, and then like 3 big personal trainers follow me in, and the boss is like, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have to let you go. And she wouldn't tell me why. I knew why. I just got out of prison. They obviously found out. But I remember just that crushing, just I had worked so hard over the last couple of years to straighten my life out and just to be, I just felt like I just got spit out. It was rejection again. And I remember going home and just kind of dusting myself off. And all right, I just didn't want to be like a laborer. I hate working, man. So why can't I make money and not work? I sell drugs. There's a lot of drug dealers. And I remember, I don't know what it was about this one place, but I wanted to work there like 10 years before. It was a Mazda store. I really liked the RX-7s. And I remember going to this Mazda store, found out they don't make RX-7s anymore. Been in prison a while. And I remember getting there, and they hired me on the spot. And it was like, well, as a salesman. And I remember, I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I remember coming the next day, and I got the hiring package, and they asked if I had a criminal record. Gets you every time, right? And I remember walking in and just like, and just wanting to be honest, not wanting to hide anything. And I just said, hey, I have something. He's like, you ready for your first day at work? I'm like, yeah, I have something to tell you. And one of these is like, all right, what is it? I'm like, I have a criminal record. He's like, no worries. He's like, almost all of us have criminal records. I think he was kidding. Like, it's a very reputable dealership. He's like, all right, what's it for? I'm like, it's for homicide. Oh. He's like, I'm not gonna fire you, but you might not have a job tomorrow when the general manager gets you. I'm like, all right. So I started talking to people. I sold 3 cars my first day. Hat trick. and then it took about a week before the general manager made it in. By the time the general manager made it in, I had outsold his entire floor, like almost doubled it. Like I was at something like 13 or 14 cars in a week. And so the general manager was like, I'll give it a shot. He's like, but the owner's coming back from holidays at the end of the month. And he's like, so when he gets back, you might not have a job. So God's taking me for a loop with this rejection thing. and I was like, all right, I'll just keep, nose to the grindstone. And I kept working. And by the time the month was end, I was top salesman by far. And I think I sold about 24 cars my first month. And so the owner got back and said, I'll give it a shot. And so they gave me a shot. And yeah, and I did very, very, very well. I got my first year out of prison, I sold 240 cars.
Wow.
And I was honored by the city of Calgary as top salesman in the city. I hadn't even seen a car in 7 years. You know, I didn't, but it was my enthusiasm, right? Because I'd never seen heated seats before, navigation. It's like, you know, so anyway, I knew nothing about cars. I was so in the past. You know, like, what size engine is this? I'm like, I don't know, like 9-liter diesel. Like, it's got heated seats, you know. It's got heated seats, navigation, it's Lamborghini stuff in your Mazda 3, man. And yeah, and so I did very, very well, and I just, you know, I offered a really genuine experience, and you know, and it was a lot of fun. And but I remember, right around the same time, I had I gave birth to my son. I had a son, and I didn't give birth. She did. But yeah, and I had my little boy Dominic, and I remember just, you know, all of a sudden being a dad and just everything changing, you know, and it was all of a sudden I wasn't, you know, having someone else to live for, and you know, and I remember when I had my little boy, that the pit in my gut was starting to come back, the emptiness was starting to come back, and I remember thinking that he will fix it, and yeah. I remember at a year and a half out of prison, that emptiness had grown a lot. I remember the biggest lie that someone's ever told me is keep picking up the lunch pail and going to work. You know, that translates to me is keep making money. Money will make you happy. You know, and this was a guy I greatly respected, and so yeah. And I remember at a year and a half sober, my first conscious thought every single day is, why am I still alive? I just absolutely just hated myself. I was making lots of money. I was looking at houses on the lake. I had great credit, nice vehicles. They a great career ahead of me, and none of it made me happy. I just still felt so empty inside, and it just got to a point where it didn't make sense to me that I was holding out on potential outlets to feel better. It didn't make sense to me that I wasn't just using drugs. And so when I decided to go back out, I knew what that decision was. Like, it wasn't like, maybe I'll go back out and cash out in a couple of years, and maybe I'll, you know, make this, you know, maybe I'll try and, you know, do it normally for the rest of my life. You know, like, I know what kind of drug addict I am. And when I made the decision to start using it, I was choosing to go die. I was choosing to turn my back on my family, my son, and my career. And I just wanted to die. And I started using. And I just started trying to bury my pain with all those lies that I chased for so many years. The girls, the drugs, the money, the parties, and that's what my life consisted of, is just trying to escape myself every single day, every night, every morning. And when I went back into criminality, I went into it with a maximum security mentality. I built a massive cocaine operation in Calgary that had about 4,500 customers. I was making about 100 grand a week. It was crazy. I was driving, you know, nice cars. You know, I had all the people kissing my butt all the time, wanting to be my friend. You know, and you know, and like I said, it was always temporary satisfaction. Like, it'd always feel good for a little bit, but it always went away. It never sustained. And like, I had moments of happiness, but I never experienced joy, ever. And it was awful. My habit skyrocketed. Just my tolerance level became more and more and more. Like, it just started off doing, you know, 8 ball a day, or like something like that. And then just over the years, my tolerance had built up. I built such a massive tolerance to drug. I was doing about $1,500 of cocaine a day. every 6 days. Got to a point where I was, I got to a point where I could not fall asleep before the 6th day. So every time I woke up, I knew I was up for 6 days. No amount of alcohol, drugs, anything would be able to put me down. I knew I was up no matter what. And the only way that I would fall asleep on the 6th day is because on the 6th day, 2 voices would come out of me. And one was me and one was not me. And it would talk to me, and it was evil, and it was very sexual in nature, and it just hated me completely. And I knew it wasn't me, and the emotional taxation from the voice coming out of me would basically shut my body down. And that's how I fell asleep. Lasted for a couple of years. It was very traumatizing, and it was kind of at that point that I started to really believe that the devil existed, and and maybe God did exist. I remember my health problems started getting very crazy, out of control. My liver started failing. I had pancreatitis, I had stomach ulcers. I remember one day I'm driving, and my feet started swelling. Both my feet started swelling up to like 3 times their normal size. And I remember when they started swelling, they're splitting and bleeding. It was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my life. Who would have thought just a little lack of blood to the legs would hurt so bad? My heart, when I got to the doctors, they said my heart was starting to fail. It was my heart would pump blood to my furthest extremities. They said, you're gonna die, it's gonna happen soon. Complete abstinence might not even save you. I remember when I got told that I was gonna die, I was happy, I was relieved. I just I skipped over that part pretty quick, because I hate I don't want anyone to feel like that the area of my life is being glorified. So but it was a long 3 years, only sleeping every 6 days, living in my pain, my shame, and my guilt. And so when I got told I was going to die, I was grateful. I wanted it to come. I wanted to die. I tried to kill myself all the time. I filled needles with bleach, put it in my arm. That didn't kill me. I've tried to cut my wrists. I've taken 150 pills that I didn't even know what they were. I sat in my car with the exhaust coming into my window. I sat in there for an hour and a half, and I'm Googling it and telling me I should be dead in like 20 minutes. I wasn't dead. And it was just like miracle after miracle after miracle that I was still alive. I started having heart attacks regularly. I was very reckless in all my actions. I lived in psychosis all the time. I was always hearing things and seeing things that weren't there. Every single person I talked to, I thought was setting me up, because of how much money I was making. It was just a very violent world, and I thought every single person was setting me up with a rival. I thought everybody was ratting me out to the cops. I lost all my ability to see the beauty in life. I didn't care about good food. I didn't care about gorgeous weather. I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about my boy. I didn't care about girls. The only thing that did anything for me was the drugs I was doing. I just lost my ability to see the beauty in life at all. I just wanted to die. And it just never came. After the doctors told me I was going to die, I survived for another 5 months. And I remember one physician telling me that the sheer amount of cocaine I was doing was what was keeping my heart beating. And he said, once you come down, you might die. And I remember my, I don't know why I feel like this is important, but I remember I never took my sunglasses off. I hated people seeing in my eyes, just because from all the drugs I was doing, I was about 130 pounds, and just very dark caves for eyes. I hated people looking at me. And if you came into my house, I smashed all my mirrors. I hated looking at myself. My manifestation for hate for myself was unbelievable. anybody, people that are saying that life, brings any kind of happiness, they're lying. And I turned my back on my family. I turned my back on absolutely everything, chasing lie after lie after lie after lie, just trying to find happiness. And just never came. And I remember one day I'm sitting in my house, and I remember this girl comes in, and she was just a friend of my girlfriend's, and she wanted me to look at this painting. It was painted by a 7-year-old girl named Akiana Kramarek. You guys ever heard of her? Yeah, so some people that haven't, just Google 7-year-old that Jesus taught to paint. I think there's only one. But she's, I remember it's crazy, because I remember she shows me these paintings that this girl painted, and they were unbelievable. Like, they were selling for millions of dollars a pop. And she says that Jesus taught her to paint. And when I looked at these paintings, I couldn't help but believe her, because you couldn't paint something like that without divine help. That'd be like my 5-year-old painting a Da Vinci in 2 years, and he barely even hold a pencil right now. It's just impossible. And so I remember just doing lots of research on her, and I remember there was one portrait specifically called The Prince of Peace, and it was a painting of Jesus. And in all her biographies and stuff, they said she grew up in an atheist home, so she'd never been to church, never, had been around Jesus at all. But I remember looking at that and knowing that that was God. And before that, I would have used Jesus in the same sentence as Noah or Moses. Like, that's how little I knew about the Bible. And I remember seeing that and just knowing that that was God. And I remember but what would God want to do with me? I have lived just such an awful existence, and I just felt so evil and so like an abomination is how I felt. It's just that pain I carried. And I remember, what would he want to do with me? So not for 1 second did I think he could do anything for me. I just thought it was cool that God was real. And so like even my brothers would come to the house when the guys that sold drugs for me, like, hey, sit down, we're gonna look at this painting, tell me what you think of this. I became obsessed with this girl's painting. So, can we just get the drug? No, it worked for me, sit down. Tell me what you think. And I became obsessed. I got a little weird about it. Yeah, but I just thought it was cool that God was real. That's, he couldn't do nothing for me. And I remember I survived for about another 5 months after that. And I remember January 4th, 2017. That's the painting. That's the Prince of Peace portrait I was telling you about. It was painted by a 7-year-old. How crazy is that? And it's not like a little painting either. It's it's like 6 feet tall. That's unbelievable. And that's, like I said, I remember just looking in those eyes. And even in a state of psychosis, I lived in psychosis. I remember being in psychosis, and that would bring peace to my mind and my heart. I found myself in pursuit of looking at him quite often. I became very obsessed with the picture. Before that, the only way I could snap myself out of psychosis was extreme adrenaline. So I'd be out of my mind at 5 in the morning, bending corners at 150 kilometers an hour through the residential on my crotch rocket. That was the best way I had before that to get rid of my psychosis. It was crazy. And anyway, January 4th, 2017 was the day that everything was coming to an end. I remember waking up that morning. I just came off a very extreme binge. All my binges were, but I remember waking up, and before I even opened my eyes, I knew that today was the day that I was going to die. And I remember getting up and barely even having the energy to go downstairs to get the knife to cut my wrist with. Maybe I'll kill myself tomorrow. I just can't even get out of bed. I was so defeated. But I knew I needed to get it done. I just didn't want to live in my skin for a minute longer and I go downstairs, and I remember grabbing the knife and coming back upstairs, and I remember sitting down on my bed and thinking, that was going to be the last time that I was going to use my legs. It was a crazy feeling. I sat down and I started cutting myself, and I started getting blood all over me, and I was covered from my toes to elbows in ash from smoking crack the past 6 days. My room was just filthy from just from the squalor from being a junkie. And I remember just looking around and just thinking this is me, this is it. Just empty beer bottles, pop cans, food, baking soda, lighters, tin foil, cutting off crack pipes, just all kinds of squalor all over my room. And I'm just looking around, just thinking, I can't live like this anymore. And I remember cutting my wrist, and I remember looking. Looking at the picture of my little boy, and thinking that let this be the one good thing you do for your son. Let this be the one good thing you do for the world. I just felt, like I said, just like an abomination, and just the devil just lying to me, telling me that this is going to be the best thing you've done for anybody. And it was just giving me the energy to get the knife deeper. And I remember getting the knife deep into my wrist, and I knew all I had to do was pull it back, and it was all going to be over. And right as I'm about to pull the knife back, I can't describe what I was feeling. But the best way to put it is that all hell was raining down against me. I was sitting in a silent room, and it was the loudest noise you'll ever hear in your life. It was, and right as I was about to pull the knife back, all of a sudden everything just went silent. All of a sudden, that pit in my gut that I've had forever disappeared. All of a sudden, the weight of the world just fell off my shoulders. And I started being filled with feelings I've never felt before in my entire life. And not just a little bit, but like bursting out of it. This is like benevolence, peace, joy. And the words just kept repeating. It's over, your suffering's come to an end. I've never been to church, I've never read the Bible, but I knew that Jesus Christ was talking to me, and that he was telling me my suffering would come to an end. And I believed him. I remember, up to this point, I was a convicted killer, I was a diagnosed sociopath, I was a gang member, a drug dealer, I was a drug addict, and he left in 99 to save me. Up until that point, I did absolutely nothing to deserve the grace that Jesus did. He did everything. And if anyone believes that you need to do works, and that means that Jesus didn't do enough, and that's just not true, amen? It's finished, he said. I remember taking off thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, throwing it in the garbage. I remember going downstairs and I grabbed a bucket of water, and I had about 30 phones from all the clients I built up over the years, and I dumped it all into a bucket of water. And I remember walking out of that house and knowing that God was talking to me in my heart and saying, just kind of leading the way, and he said, don't look back. And I walked out of that house and I didn't take anything with me. I left a full house. And but all that stuff was what made me me. Like all that stuff was just attached to the identity I built up over the years. And all of a sudden, in a split, transforming moment, my identity had become more clear than I've ever been in my entire life. My identity is in Jesus. My identity is exactly who he created me to be. and I knew that in my heart. And I remember walking out, and I went to my dad's house, and don't worry, I'm gonna lift you guys back up here. I remember going to my dad's house, and I remember my dad's like terrified of me. my dad didn't really know how to be a dad to me, and I made a lot of mistakes over the years, but my dad always loved me unconditionally. He just listened to my mom a lot, which was a mistake on how to raise me. And I remember, and everybody told him to don't bring Cody to Turner Valley, don't bring Cody home. And my dad went against everything to bring me in. He put his retirement off for a year so he could love me back to life. The Holy Spirit did work with my dad. And I went I go to his house, but I remember just being, I knew I belonged to Jesus, but my detox was absolutely horrific. It had been 3 years since I'd come down. My mind was completely fogged with drugs, and for the first time, the fog was clearing. In that the damage that I did to myself became very prevalent, very apparent. And my felt like my eyeballs were spinning around in my head, felt like my brain was spinning around in my head. I was in so much pain. And the physical pain was intense, but just the shame and the guilt that just kept hitting me wave after wave. I had to keep leaning on Jesus. I had to keep praying. And I remember my dad would come in, and he'd come in with a styrofoam like food, and he'd just put it on my dresser, and I couldn't even look at him. Like I wouldn't even come up from the covers when he'd come in, and he'd just put his hand on me, and just and then he'd go out, he just loved me, and I remember thinking, all right, I gotta start, coming out of this. I remember I go to the doctors a few days after I got saved, and the doctor's looking at me, and I'm 125 pounds. I'm a walking corpse is what I look like, and he's looking at the laundry list of things that are wrong with me on my medical record. And so, I got pancreatitis, my heart's failing, my liver's failing, bleeding out of every orifice, like very unhealthy. And I remember he's like, all right, we gotta send you to the emergency room to bring you down. And he sent me to the emergency room at the Black Diamond Hospital. And they ended up testing everything and all that stuff, and they scanned my blood and all that, and they sent me back to him. And I had to pick my doctor's job off the ground. He said, it's like my body's never touched a drug in its entire life. So the only thing that I was redlining was my protein levels. Where am I getting protein from? It was a fish. My dad was giving me lots of fish. Great cook. And and I remember, I remember my dad was sitting there. My dad's not saved, but my dad was like, are you sure, Doc? Look at him. I was sitting there, twitching on the doctor bed or whatever it's called. And then we ended up going home, and so I knew God just revealed himself to me again, healed me, and so I was like, all right, Jesus. I'm like, where do people go that love you? Like, where do people go that love Jesus? Because I knew Jesus saved me, but I didn't know if I was a Protestant, I didn't know if I was a Catholic, I didn't know if I was some kind of witness. I had no idea what I was, where to go, and I knew there was different denominations they call them, right? And so I was like, all right, where do I go? And thank you, brother. And I remember, and so I was like, who can I trust in this situation? I'm like, Akiana America. I'm like, what is she? Because Jesus taught her to paint, obviously took her to the right place, right? So I Googled her. It's another thing I discovered when I got out of prison. Google. Awesome. Steve Jobs, he's a miracle worker. is a miracle worker. So I Googled her, and it turns out she's a Christian. I'm like, okay, that means I'm a Christian. I'm like, where do Christians go to church? And it turns out, like, my uncle is a Christian. I'm like, all right, let me see you can be trusted. I'm like, where does he go to church when he's in town? And it turns out he goes to the Black Time Gospel Chapel. And I remember my first day in church. I come in, and I'm late, of course. And I come running into the front pew, front and center. And I sit down and I'm just, I told you my T-Dogs is awful. I was like, I had super opposed anxiety, depression, bipolar, PTSD. Like, I had a laundry list of things that they said was wrong with me. And I'm sitting in the front row, and he stops preaching. And I hadn't seen a lot of this before. And it's Black Diamond, this little town. They gets hold of it. I'm like, come on, man, roll it out. Tell me about Jesus, man. And he keeps going. And then I remember at the end of the service, I get up and I go running out, just kind of running away from any kind of social stimulation. And he chases me down, and he puts the Bible in my hands. And I remember when he put this book in my hands, I knew that every single word in this book was as good as gold. That God wrote this book that is perfect. Yep. I have had all kinds of money, and substances and lies go through my hands. I chased lie after lie after lie after lie. And I remember getting home, and for the first time, I'm twitching under my blankets. And for the first time in my life, I'm reading truth after truth after truth after truth. And I knew it was true. And just really, God's book started coming alive as I'm reading it. It was amazing. And I'm twitching under my bed, and God put it on my heart to start writing a book. And I've never even read a book before. and I'm like, all right, I don't know. And he just kept I got the name was from God, the cover was from God, just the whole 9 yards. And I remember, I'm like, all right, God, if you want me to write a book, you're going to have to pave the way, because I don't know how I'd do that. And I remember, I've never read or wrote nothing before, And I remember I get a laptop out of my dad's closet. It's a broken laptop. It's missing an key. It's got no battery. And I remember turning it on, and it worked. And I remember shuffling this thing under my blankets. Start finger pecking my way to victory. And, very, very slowly. My lack of typing skills was enabled me to go extremely deep with my thoughts. and I didn't have a Word document, so I was using Notepad, which doesn't even have spell check. So I'd have to copy paste all my work to my email and spell check it, and copy paste it back. That's how I wrote the first half of my book. I read this book, and I wrote my book, and my dad didn't try and make me go back to work or anything. It took me about 3 months before I could really come out of the house for an extended period of time. I had so much anxiety. I remember coming out of my room, come out, sit in the living room, run back in, dive while I'm under my blankets, stay there for a bit, and then a week later, get up to the kitchen, go run back, same thing. And we lived on a big acreage, so I come out, kind of coming down the driveway, and then Forrest Gumping back in the house. But as I leaned on God, as I invited Jesus in more and more and more, I started getting further and further and further down that driveway. The weeks turned into months, and I just started to live again. God just brought me back to life. It was amazing. I remember trying to, my pastors asked me if I wanted to get baptized. That sounds like a Christian thing to do, right? Get baptized. So I said yes, and I remember getting baptized, and this old, what did we decide on? Elderly, old couple. Yeah, this older couple comes approaches me afterwards, and they're like, God brought us here to hear you today, because they said they forgoed going to their usual church because their son is a crystal meth addict, and he's sleeping for the first time in days. He's been tearing apart their family for years, and they just wanted to get to the closest church to get a service in, and then run back, and then before he wakes up. And so they're like, God brought us to hear you. They're like, so his name's Carl, and they're like, can you come talk to him? And it was like, I got come out of the water and my ministry starts. And I said yes. And I remember I went, and I'm like, all right, this is what God saved me for. And I remember I go to talk to him, and he knew exactly who I was. He'd read the newspapers, he had heard about me and all that stuff. So when his parents asked if he'd go with me, he thought that they hired me to kill him. They might as well get the professional to do it. and so, but that's drug addiction, right? So when he was walking away with me, he was willingly walking to his execution, just because he loves his family. I thought that's what they wanted, but luckily for him, that's not what I wanted. It's working for the other guy. And I remember thinking, I told him what I wanted him to do is come to my house. I said, I'm going to Bible college in 3 weeks. If you come to my house, I will sit with you and go through this with you over the next 3 weeks. And just sit with him and go through it with him. It's empathy, right? And there's a big difference between empathy and compassion. Compassion is like if you're walking by a storm drain and you see someone down in the storm drain, you throw them a sandwich and say, I hope you get out of there. That's compassion. Empathy is different. Empathy requires us to crawl into the storm drain with them and live it and feel it with them and experience what they're going through so we can understand them on a different level and have a different kind of influence with them. I believe that there's 3 different kinds of influence in the world. You got power and authority. So it's like if your 3-year-old says, you can't make me, pick them up, put them over there because they're a 3-year-old. And then you got success influence. So that's, I have what you want, so you need to listen to me. Does that work with a drug addict? No. Or you can gain influence with somebody by earning the trust of somebody. Yeah. So the third kind of influence is harder to come by because you've got to earn it, but it lasts longer. And when you take the time to experience what people are going through, the ultimate story of empathy is Jesus, isn't it? Isn't that what he did 2,000 years ago when he stepped into our mess? Shed his godly features to become one of us, and wash our feet. How do I know that Jesus is the ultimate story of empathy? Because I stand on God's word, and it says it in Hebrews. For we do not have a high priest who is unwilling to empathize with our weaknesses, but one who is in every respect and tempted as we are, yet he did not sin. So let us then draw close to God's throne of grace with confidence that we will find mercy in times of our weaknesses. We don't have a God that doesn't understand us. We have a God that experienced what we were going through, yet he did not sin. And that's what grace is. Grace, I love Jesus. Right, so anyways, so I bring Colin over, and you start going through with him. About 6 days in, I'm feeling pretty defeated. He's talking about drugs all the time. He was sober 6 days, but he wasn't praying, wasn't inviting God, and he's just talking about drugs all the time. He wanted me to meet his drug dealer, that kind of stuff. And I was just I remember just feeling really defeated with this guy, thinking, God, come on, God, what are we doing here? So it was a horrible first one. You know, thinking, I was thinking that maybe I misread the situation, and maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do. You know, and I remember feeling just crazy that day. And we had a conversation. It was the one where he wanted me to meet his drug dealer, and I told him, I said, you know what, I'm like, maybe you gotta die. Maybe you gotta go out, maybe you gotta come upstairs for the next 5 years and see the shame and guilt in your parents' faces every single day because they know you're downstairs doing drugs in their basement all night. You know, maybe you gotta do that. It's way worse than death, right? And I remember he started crying. So I made him cry. It was an accident. And he goes downstairs to his room, and I go upstairs and sitting with my parents. And I remember sitting there, and I'm with my dad and my stepmom, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, I just think I shouldn't have brought him here. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And and all of a sudden, in a split transforming moment, God gave me eyes to see Colin the way he does.
Amen.
And all of a sudden, I just got filled up with that uncompromising, uncontrollable love that I felt that day on the floor. And just filled with it. And I was like, oh, we're not giving up on this guy. Scared my parents. Come on, we're going downstairs. We're going to love him. That's the words that kept repeating in my head. Love him, love him, love him, love him. And I remember going downstairs, and me and my parents bursting into his room, and we wrap him up. We sit with him, and we all, like, even my dad, we just sat there and held him and just loved him. And he's crying, and I remember my parents go upstairs, and me and him go outside, and we're looking at the mountains, and I say to him, I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna make it. I'm like, but you need to do the one thing you're not doing, and that's invite Jesus in. He's the one that did everything for me. I didn't do anything. And he turns to me. It's the first time I've seen him since we were upstairs, and he says, I just was. I was asking God to show me what love feels like. There's me and my family burst into the room. And praise God. And the darkness was gone. It was, I thought maybe I was special. No. Colin's the darkness turned to light in a split transforming moment. And Colin knew that he belonged to Jesus. And everything was different after that. Colin's sober today. It's crazy. So I ended up going to Bible college. And I remember after that, I was like, wow. That's like stuff in the Bible. I'm like, I can't believe everybody knows about Jesus. I had that, God just really lit this crazy fire in my heart to just tell as many people about him as possible. And then I'm like, all right, so where's a high population of drug addicts to ask God to help? And I remember East Hastings came to my heart. Have you guys ever heard of East Hastings? So the East Hastings is like the poorest postal code in the country. So it's like thousands of homeless, prostitution, crime, drug addicts. It's just like you kind of got something picturing it like a crazy looking back alley or something. We're talking 20 straight blocks of tents right down the road, needles everywhere, absolute chaos. It was like a third world country in downtown Eastside Vancouver. And I remember God put East Hastings on my heart. I was like, can't we start with the mustard seed or something? It's like, I Googled it, because Google's awesome, right? And I Googled it, and the guy that did the documentary that I watched got bottled in the head in 2 minutes. Chased out of there. I was like, sure you want to go there? And I remember I went. Thank you. And so, and I'm like, oh, man, but God wanted me to go there. And so I said yes. And I remember going down there at less than a year sober. It was Christmas time. I had spent my entire life not being with my family on Christmas. And so this would have been the first opportunity to spend Christmas with my family. I forego that. And my plan when I was going down there was just to spend 10 days being in the hands and feet of Jesus. I had to really reel in what I was capable of. You know, I kind of had this idea in my head that, like, you know, a successful mission would be like, let's say, like 25% of Hastings. No, I can't save anybody. You know, it's all God. I can only plant seeds. Yeah. So that became my mission, was to plant as many seeds as possible. And I remember going down there. I remember getting dropped off, and I was going down for, like I said, less than a year, so over 10 days. You know, I was getting dropped off with my backpack and my box, Bibles. Yeah, wow. It was very overwhelming. Like cops, fire trucks, overdoses, drugs. They're just selling drugs right in front of you. Everyone doing drugs right in front of you. Like just absolute chaos. I remember standing there like, whoa, like maybe I might have been off more than I get you again. And I'm like, all right, so I'm just gonna start talking to people here. and I remember, and I started walking, and I had to, like I said, I had to really reel in what I was capable of doing. And I remember walking by this guy, you know, as I'm walking by him, his name's Carl. I'm walking by him, and he's got this big knife, and he's hacking away at a piece of wood. And that's what they do in East Hastings. They make arts and crafts. And then they sell it for drugs. And I remember he's hacking away at a piece of wood. And I don't know what it was about this guy, but I'm like, God just led me right to him. And I'm like, hey man, how's it going? It's my first time evangelizing in this guy. I was evangelizing before I even knew what evangelism was. I was like, hey man, how's it going? And he's like, I'm pretty good. What's that? Just a little suspicious. And I'm like, hey man, you want to go for food or something? He's like, I'm not gay. Not what this is. Me neither. Touche. Praise God. Yeah, and he's like, then he's like, I'm like, and then he's like, yeah, I'll go for food. And we go for food. And I remember going down into the skate park of East Hastings. I'm in East Hastings there. And all the drug addicts, they don't like light. So they smashed out all the lights. So they're like walking into this like dark park of East Hastings, and it's all tense and very creepy, and everyone doing drugs. I'm walking with this guy, and I'm like, got a little nervous all of a sudden. So I'm like, hey, I got time for homicide. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I got a big knife. Touche. Yeah. And anyways, we sat down in the skate park, and I remember getting there, and I showed him, and I was carrying this picture of me. And it was a picture from when I was rated, it was taken December 24th, 2016? Yeah, 2016. And it was like right at the end, you know, skinny, and you know, and I showed him, and I just showed him the picture of me, and you know, and he's looking at it, and he's like, you know, the power of your testimony, right? And he's like, wow, he's looking at it, and he's like, you know, I'm 200 pounds now, I'm healthy, you know, and he's like, you know, and he gave his life to Jesus that night down in the park. And I remember I ended up, after I talked to Carl, I was just like, this like crazy fire lit in me. I knew exactly what I needed to do now. I just needed to, you know, just serve people, right? And I went on, and I just came up with different ideas to try and help people. Like I told one guy, I'll buy him a tent if you let me do a Bible study in it with you. I sat with dudes on the street. I got to a point, like it was over 10 days, I was just straight down the pavement, and I got to a point where I could walk down almost every alley, and people would know who I am, like saying hi to me and stuff as I'm walking through, sandwiches and stuff. I raised about $7,000. You know, yeah, so Jesus Christ turned to, you know, fed the 5,000. I just had a debit card, but I raised some money, and yeah, and then we down payment for 10 days. When I left, it was the most profound 10 days of my life. When I left East Hastings, Carl, the very first guy I talked to, came out of East Hastings with me. He's been sober ever since. I moved him into his new house recently. He was homeless on Hastings for 2 years with a heroin and meth addiction. And a week before I got there, he was face down in the mud in Pigeon Park, saying, God, if you exist, please help me, and I will accept it. And I didn't think that this guy, and this is the craziest part, is this guy is my best friend in the world today. Like, I work out with him almost every day. We're best friends. And I didn't think in 100 million years as I'm walking down there by myself that I'd be ministering to my best friend. I thought didn't even cross my mind. But that's the God we serve, right? Amen. So, His love. And and the Hastings trip was a huge success. Just lots of seeds planted. And I remember, and then after that, I kind of went on a roller coaster of trying to figure out where God wanted to take me. I landed at a team challenge for quite a while, and I remember that was an unbelievable job. I was hired on to be the evangelist, and I remember I started a charity called the Avery Projects, and I remember Avery Neufeld was my best friend. And he calls me up one day, and he says he's addicted to heroin, and he said, I need your help, Cody. He's like, I'm gonna die. I need help. And he was dead serious. And I remember telling him, I'll come and get you. And he lived in Calgary, and I lived in Kelowna. And I remember getting off the phone with him, and I remember hearing God tell me to call him back. And I called him back, and I knew he wanted me to, ask him to give his life to the Lord. And we talked for another half hour just praying, and he gave his life to the Lord over the phone. And then as I'm on my way to Calgary, I get a call from his girlfriend saying he died from an overdose. And but I know where he is. And God's timing was perfect with me. It was perfect with Avery. It was perfect with Colin. It was perfect with Carl. I'm just seeing miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. Jesus. So it's in the business of miracles, right? And it's crazy. So I started the Avery Projects, and the Avery Projects really encompass Avery's testimony. And because, in the world of addiction, days, hours, minutes, they matter. It was a great way to honor my friend. So now we do street evangelism, interventions, conferences, all kinds of stuff, just basically anything. They're just charitable missions. Just trying to close the gap in addiction from when someone gets the gospel. Because that's what saves, right? The gospel. That's one thing I learned is 12 steps is rehabilitation. The gospel is transformation. And I remember, so I ended up going for the second annual East Hastings trip. So I went down, the first time I went down there just by myself. The second time, which is just this last year, I went down with 100 volunteers. I put it out there, and I had 100 people join me down there, and it was just absolute madness down there. And we fed about 2,500 people this year. Just had a bunch of events. Carl came back with me, bringing that transformation to full circle, from returning to the harsh streets from which he came. And we just evangelized, just be the hands and feet of Jesus again. I took it to the next level. We did haircuts this year, so we had a bunch of barbers come down, cut people's hair, get them ready for job interviews, get them looking good and feeling good. So created in the image of God, man, rejoice. And it was really good. And I remember I went through a really, really, really hard time over that December, which was just recently. So it was very fruitful, but I got beat down very, very hard. And I got, when I was down on East Hastings, I felt a lot of rejection with my work. And I remember getting back with a huge chip on my shoulder with how I felt about the whole thing. And I ended up falling away and using it. And it was just for one night, and and right away, God reeled me in, but that shame from falling is kind of consumed me ever since. So I've been struggling lately with recovery. And this is the first time I'm telling anybody that, especially in public. And I just know that's what our conversation this morning was about, and it was scary. But I trust Jesus. I trust His Word, and I know that exposing the devil's lies, bringing light to it, is how we're going to beat it. And so I just thank you for loving me here today. And I just hope that God was glorified here today. I feel like it was. This is really good. And I love you guys. So you guys moved right now? Yes. So I'm going to wrap this up. But what I want to do is I want to wrap it up with scripture. And something that just God's really put on my heart today. This is called Treasure in Jars of Clay. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. Treasure is the gospel. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have life because we have the gospel. Because we have